historically excited about everything. Everything. I believe everything, as I've said in the previous podcast this week, I believe that everything that comes in our path, whether they are problems or promotions, they've all been filtered through God. And as my younger brother taught me several years ago, some 21 years ago, that Satan, the devil, has to get permission from God before he can mess with us. And so, therefore, there's a certain sense of joy when big problems come. They appear to be left-handed compliments from God. And so, today is one prime example. Hello, everyone. My name is Tim Alston, and welcome to the 10 Commandments of Leadership. This is where we share with you lessons from the front lines. Is where we confront what's blocking the leader, what's blocking what leaders could be. As I said, my name is Tim Alston. I am a leadership strategist. I'm also a 4-time Amazon best-selling author, and I'm also the world's first acknowledged recovering egoholic. But I am getting a bit ahead of myself. I do apologize. Today's episode is part testimony, part teaching, and part teaser. Why do I say that? Because after 20 plus years of wrestling with my own distorted sense of self and watching leadership collapse under the same, I've been entrusted with this first of a kind tool. This is important to me. It's important across the board. And I believe God is picking on me. And I praise God for it. He can't test you unless he can try you. And that's why I'm glad to be here. This first of a kind tool, my team and I call EMC squared. EMC squared. And I believe it's a game changer. So let's talk about it a bit today. You hear me talk a lot about egoholism, about inflation. As I like to say, egoholism isn't just arrogance. It isn't just self-promotion. It isn't just low or no esteem. It is a hidden. It is addicted and caused by a distorted. All that I've seen saying it is simply one's sense of self. That of self, which is God-given, when it be distorted, that's what brings about egoholism. Egoholism hides behind titles, it hides behind pews as well. Leadership, what could be healthy leadership, us collaborative teams, costing us peace in our own hearts, and most importantly, it's costing us record. You know me as Tim, but actually and officially, my name is Tom. And according to the U.S. Social Security Administration, Ms. Gray Alston III, Tim, I've been given industry and company awards before most of those firings. In the workforce, I never ever once got a job promotion. Why? I've reasoned it because I was good enough to get in, but I was not excellent enough to go. I had a problem to myself. I was not addicted to alcohol. I was not an alcoholic. I was not a shopaholic. I was not addicted to talking. I was not a talker. I was not a worker. So I was an egoholic. And in that brokenness, God gave my addiction problem a name. And that name he sent through me as clear as I can remember. The name was egoholism. He offered me an acronym for that, primary egoholism. And that acronym, PAIDES. And SPADE stands for selfishness, arrogance, mismanagement, which I define as spending money you don't have to buy things you don't need to impress people you don't that have been given to us, tools that have to us. So that's selfishness, procrastination, arrogance, impression mismanagement, disorganization. D. E. Poor eye contact. And selfishness. Again, I am bookended by self. That's when the healing began. Now, I mentioned earlier that you've heard Albert's most famous equation, E equals I modeled mine a bit on, and mine is EMC squared. A lot different from his. EMC squared is short for the ego measurement. Egoism. It is things by your ego, but it will measure how they're affecting your team, your mission, and it will correct them using what I call my 7 steps, my 10 commandments of egoholic framework. Beta pilot organizations. One hypothetical is a mid-sized tech company called Intercore. HR director read our white paper and said this has never been able to name. EMC, not to blame, to build better. So is your leadership in your home, in your informal social group, in your workplace, your workplace? Is your leadership? Is it simply suffering from an undiagnosed case of egoholism? Here's what I know. It isn't about shame. It's about strategy. No longer do you have to bear the weight of micromanagement. I know it all again. This can all be, and we're working on quantifying these, and there's the research out there that we look to be sharing with you over the next several weeks and years. Because for once now, what the problem has been. Leaders talk or don't talk about ego problems. They issues. She's got issues. Tackle the problem of ego. Well, they've never known a name for it. Is the fact that leaders are trained to solve problems, trained to cure them, solve them. The problem with egoholisms cannot be solved. They cannot be cured. The egoholisms can only be, hear me, they can only be managed. And the best way to understand that is to understand the fact that they are managed in the same way we manage our front lawns. And there are no your lawn in March to start of spring, managed or cut or weed eated, pruned or edged every week. You don't come to work in the morning with the hair style that you got out the bed. No hair, I got hair. It's right here. It has to be managed, it has to be groomed. And the same with cases. They have to be managed. I generally go to sinus about once a year. I'll never cure it. I can only manage it. So in that same light and against that same backdrop, that's how we need to look at egoholism and ego management. As I said, this is not a strategy. EM squared, the egoholism measurement calculated for correction, is a strategy, and we'll break that down podcast. It's not about ego death. It's ego man. The ego is given by God. God, our sense of self. But egoholism is self-imposed. It might work for you and your team, then DM me on LinkedIn or email me at intimalston, or come visit our upcoming when focus on the leadership. Let's start recovering, and let's start recovering together. This is Timson, and remember, the most ego is the one that hides. The most dangerous ego is the one that hides. This is the message that God's given me. All of us suffer with it, but God has blessed me with this message. And I'm still recovering. I'll be covering because egos can't be explained. Egos can only be managed. This is for many of you a brand new concept you've never heard before. Even though you struggled with it, you're glad to find a word for it. We're going to unpack it and we're going to deliver it for His glory. Thank you.